Hi, Danville. Alan Shields here, Chief of Police for the town, and we are 10-8 and in service, which means we're here to make people's lives better, and we do that by safeguarding the lives, rights, and property of everyone we serve. I appreciate everyone joining us today. We this is a live show, and I know we're a little bit late today, and we kind of did a double start. That's because we're having some difficulty with the internet and the stream here. Appreciate you staying with us through those difficulties. That's the plus and the minus of a live show. Sometimes there's a little bit of difficulty getting on, but the plus is if you have a question, answer it live, and you want it answered live during the show, just throw it in the chat, and we'll make sure we get to it. And anything I can't get to during the show, I'll make sure to respond to afterwards in the chat. I'm usually around for about 10 or 15 minutes after the show to kind of respond to that. But we've got a pretty cool show. We've got some interesting topics that we want to cover, and I think some key components in there that are things for all of us as community members to look for and how we can work to be safe. But I want to start off by just covering 2 quick points. The first one is when we present information on here, in no way are we ever victim shaming, right? We should be okay to go out and leave our doors unlocked, right? We should be able to leave our stuff in our car, sitting on the front seat. We are not the problems for why victimization occurs. It's a motivated offender, it's a location, and it's a victim or a target. We realize we don't control the motivated offender, but we control the other two. So realize when we provide information, it's never to shame victims. It's simply to use that as a springboard to provide all of you with some crime safety or some emergency preparedness tips. So please keep that in mind. So when we go over some of this stuff, realize that that's the reason that we're doing it, that the victims are not the ones that we're trying to cast out on this, and we're not trying to shame anyone. It's not the purpose of what we do. All right. As always, if you can, go ahead and download the FEMA All Hazards Guide. This is a guide that will help us to be prepared should one of those events occur, like a wildfire, an earthquake, those sort of things. Really, if you could download the whole guide, go through it in about 20 minutes with your family, put it in a drawer, you're done, right? Maybe get some preparation in there. If you look, here's the wildfire one. It kind of just talks about, and there's more detail in the guide itself, but it kind of talks about what you can expect and what you can do to be prepared. Also, how are you going to know what's happening? Make sure you log into the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff Community Warning System. Also, really great guide. It was actually produced in combination with Contra Costa Fire, Moraga Fire, or La Miranda Fire, and our Lafayette Police Chief, Ben Aldrett. He's a lieutenant with the Sheriff's Office assigned out there. And it's a great guide. It's got a lot of information on how you can be prepared, have a plan. How do you prepare your house, your kids, your pets, and then what you can do in the way of being prepared should there be one of those events. So great guides. We've downloaded them. Lots of good information. I can tell you, as someone that should be very prepared, you're police chief, right? All of the officers assigned to Danville, the sheriff's office, we all have a greater responsibility because when that disaster hits, I have to make sure that my family's taken care of so I can actually leave home, come in here and manage the situation. And I'll tell you that's been that way my whole career. We have a disaster plan, so should something happen, everybody's coming to work. So I would think that I was pretty prepared. And I'll tell you, I downloaded those guides. I opened them up. I looked inside them. And even someone that should be prepared like me, I still found some things in there that were very useful. And so I can't stress it enough. Please go ahead and download those guides. All right, we're going to get to crime and traffic as we always do. If you have questions, go ahead and ask them in the chat. But as you can always go to communitycrimemaps.com on your own, and you can see all the crime, all the sexual offender registry information. It's all right there. We upload it several times a day, and it's all there for you to take a look at. You can actually even set up an alert. Just put a zoom into your neighborhood and then select as it occurs or a daily digest, and you'll get an email to your inbox with what happened for that week. All right, July 3rd through the 9th, 2023. Very good on collisions. The one I do want to note, though, is the first one, and this is an auto versus bicyclist. It was an injury collision, minor injuries, but nonetheless injuries, and that was on San Ramon Valley Boulevard at Boone Court. On the 7th, we had another injury collision, and that was on Sycamore Valley Road at Greenbrook. The reason I want to highlight the bike one is we have a bicycle advisory commission. We also have a bike master plan here in town. So there is a very specific effort to make bikeways safer for the town. And I know that you've seen some of it over the past few years. You've seen some green paint. You've seen some areas where we've added bike lanes or like sharrows. And those are the ones where if you're riding like on, we call it Old Communitas. It's a section of Communitas Sahara between Diablo Road and Communitas and Sycamore. That section, you actually see in the middle of the lane, there's those big sharrows. It looks like a bicycle and has the arrow. So we've been doing a lot in the way of increasing that. So look forward to continuous improvement on that. But we do ask our bicyclists, make sure you're wearing your helmet. I ride my bike to and from work just about every day. And I still go out and I see a lot of the kids, really. I think adults don't want to lose this. And so we're out there wearing our helmets. But I see a lot of kids, helmet on the handlebar, that sort of thing. And it's just really not safe. So really make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And as a cyclist, you have to be very defensive. You really have to look and make sure that intersections are clear. You may have the right of way, but if you're the one that gets hit, it's going to hurt. So really pay attention to that. All right. See, Debbie and Sue are making use of the chat. Love it. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat and we'll get to them. All right. So we're going to talk about crime. Very interesting week for crime and a couple of lessons that we can probably pull out of this. And there's an interesting part of this as well. Total, we had one burglary, potentially two, but it was categorized as a theft. So 2 thefts and then 3 vehicle thefts. That is the most vehicle thefts we've had in a week in, frankly, I just can't remember. I mean, it has been a very long time. We end out the year with somewhere between 20 and 30 total vehicle thefts. So having 3 in 1 week is absolutely incredible. All right. So on July 3rd, we had 2 stolen vehicles from Shelterwood Court, one on Shelterwood Court, one on Shelterwood Drive. And both of them appeared to have been used in a sideshow in neighboring cities, and they were recovered in crashed conditions. So it looks like they hit some poles, went up on curbs. I mean, they just destroyed these beautiful cars. And so very disappointing. We had a theft of property from a locked vehicle on Railroad on July 5th. And also on the 5th, this is the one that's kind of a wobbler. It goes between a grand theft and a burglary. And this was where, and I'll cut, but it was on the 3400 block of Communitas area. So kind of the Blackhawk area shopping centers that we have. There's a gym out there. There was a group class going on, and people went into the business where the cubbies are, where people will put like wallets and shoes and those sort of things. And they actually just started taking property from there. And so they took quite a bit of value when it comes to the property. So really, we do see it a lot as far as like gyms. We don't have as many gyms in Danville as we used to. But we do see it that is an area where people will target. They'll target gyms. Even last year, 2022, we actually had it where they went into a school admin area and went in and took some of the ladies' wallets and purses and things. So we really ask if you have that personal property, we've seen them at work and offices. So if you're at work, if you're at a studio or a class, really make sure you lock that stuff up. Me personally, my wife and I, we have kind of this ritual when we go to the gym in the mornings where we do not bring anything with us that we're not going to take into the gym and leave on our person or in our gym bag. And our gym bag, you'll see if we're lifting weights, it's sitting right there at the bench with us. If we're on like an elliptical or a row machine, it's right there with us. We don't leave stuff out in common areas where people can go. And it's really a hard thing, I think, for businesses to have that and then watch and train the class. So we don't want the businesses to have to watch our property. We'll take care of that for us. So we just leave that stuff at home, because we also know that if we pull up to the gym parking lot and we take our, my wife's purse or my backpack or our gym bag, and we pull a few things out and then we throw it in the back seat, there might very well be someone watching the parking lot, looking as people are pulling up to the gym and waiting to see someone hide something. And as soon as you hide it, they know it's of value. They're going to take it. So the lesson on that one is really be thoughtful when we go somewhere and pack what you need and don't pack anymore. And again, we should be able to put whatever we want wherever we want, and it should be there when we get back. I'm not shaming anyone. I'm just simply saying this is the reality. So let's take a look at the rest of the crime for the week. On the 7th, this is a different one. We had a forced entry into a business on Sycamore Valley Road West. No property appeared to be taken, but they broke into the business, and it appears that they did so not just to do damage, but to enter, to steal. And then on the 7th, this goes down as a stolen vehicle, because even a trailer is a vehicle, but we had a stolen cargo trailer from the 800 block of Sycamore Valley Boulevard. All right, so the trailers, that's a tough one. So I've got a trailer as well for my boat. And what I do is I put a hitch lock on it. So there's these locks you can buy that you put it in there, and it's like a master lock. You lock the thing. If you went into this knowing you were going to steal the trailer, very easy lock to defeat. I also put like a boot on one of my tires, and that's a lock that clamps down on the rear tire, and I pull the key out. Again, if you have a crowbar, you can pop it and be gone. What I'm trying to deter is the opportunistic thief, the thief that's going to come, see the trailer, have a tow ball hitch, and just throw it on and go. So our recommendation is, one, do what you can if you can lock it in a secure lot. So maybe in your backyard behind a fence, maybe a storage yard, maybe in your garage if it's a small enough trailer or vehicle, or find, like for us, we can store it at the lot where we keep the boat. So that's another option for us. With the cars, most cars now have keys, and the keys, and I'll kind of put it up close, but if you look at where the Toyota emblem is right there, that's usually a little chip that makes it so you can't start the car with just a key. You have to have a key that has a chip to it. And so if you don't have that, the car won't start. If it won't recognize the key, it won't start. And then if you look at Teslas and some of the other cars, if it's your phone, like your phone may be your key. So if you don't have your phone with you, they can't drive the car off. It's very, very, very rare that we see a stolen car where the keys aren't left in it. I would say the high percentage, like 90+% of the time, keys are left in the car. And I'll admit, I'm one of those offenders. Unfortunately, I have to carry two phones, one for work, one for home. And then you've got your wallet, and you can have a key in your wallet. And I've done it before where I've actually left like my wallet in the center console, or I take one key to go, or one phone to go in the grocery store, not realizing that the other phone that I'm leaving in the car is actually the key for the car. And so I've had to build strong habits to make sure that I don't do that. So I do understand that that's something that can happen. Totally understandable. But we want to build good habits to make sure that we keep our property, because what we're finding that crooks will do is they'll jump in the car as they're stealing from multiple cars. They'll jump in the car and they'll just start hitting the start button, right? Because you could have the key hidden, your spare key hidden in the car. But if it's like my Toyota work car Camry key, and I take the spare key and I hide it in the car always recognizes that the key is inside the car, and the car will start. So our recommendation is make sure there's no keys left in that car, whether it's this one or the little Tesla credit card looking thing, or you've got it synced to your phone, any of that. Just make sure they're all out of your car. All right, a couple weeks ago, I did a presentation to the town council. During that presentation, I get 4 of those a year. In March, that is my annual report. So that's kind of a large one. It's anywhere from 32 to 36 pages long. And it is your overall snapshot of what the police department is doing. And then quarterly after that, I'll give updates to the town council. And those are usually 4 to 8 pages long. And it's just meant to give them a quick snapshot, like a health check for what the police department is doing to serve the community and keep all of you safe. This last one, we covered a few things, and I'll go over them here. But tonight, what I want to cover is the training part of it. So if you're looking, I will update the links below to include a link right to my Chiefs page, which will include the past articles. So the current one for our reports is going to be June 2023. It'll be at the top, and you can check this out. And today we'll cover training. So we've presented this in the past. So the Danville Police Department goes to a minimum of 24. It's probably close to 40 hours of training a year now with some of the additional things. But those are perishable skills training. So that's CPR, first aid, firearms, defensive tactics, and those sort of things. But in addition to that, we send your Danville officers to a lot of specialized training. And the point is we want your officers that serve this community to be the highest trained and most qualified that they can possibly be. So take a look at some of the courses that we send these officers to: human trafficking, forensic interviewing, arson investigation, SWAT tactical operator course, impaired driving, interview and interrogation, combating domestic terrorism, case law update, search warrant update, and sexual assault investigations. And what we try to do is we try to have a diverse group here, right? So that if a sexual assault that's maybe unusual comes up, we will have someone on staff right here in Danville that we can put on that case, and we know between that and frankly, the cooperation we have with our counterparts at the sheriff's office, our investigators up there, we know that these cases will be handled properly. And let me just touch on that real quick. I mention it from time to time, but I'm a lieutenant with the sheriff's office assigned to the town of Danville. So Danville does police services via a contract, which means the town of Danville is responsible for all of the police services here in town. And what they do to accomplish that is they go to the sheriff. They say, hey, sheriff, can you give me 30 officers? And I'm one of those officers. And so we have, in Danville, we only have 30 officers, but with the sheriff's office, we have 750 plus officers. So we've got a lot of people that we can rely on that do very specialized things with the sheriff's office. So even if we got some complex, hairy case that maybe the officers assigned here have never seen before, we're a phone call away from our detectives up at the county, and they do come down quite a bit throughout each year and do offer quite a bit of specialized service. So we do spend a lot on training, but we also know that we can rely on the resources that we get with our partners up in Martinez at the sheriff's office. All right, so let's take a look. So here's another interesting, this is Officer Dylan Hume. He graduated from the Inner Perspectives Leadership course. This is a great course. It's a 6-month course. They go once a month, and it's really meant to take this officer and bring him to the next level and prepare him for leadership positions within the Danville Police Department. Some of the topics include paradigms, leadership styles, ethics, racism, critical incident response, and current events in law enforcement. It's a great opportunity because what they do is it's facilitated by some of the best law enforcement leaders in this area, the Contra, Costa, Alameda County area. And through that, you get leader representatives from all these different departments, and they go and they break down a lot of incidents, and they really take deep dives into some of these topics. And we've been sending people to this for, it's got to be at least 7 or 8 years, because it started when our participation started when Steve Simpkins was the chief here, and he saw it, and he saw how valuable and important it was, and everybody that has come back from that has come back a better officer. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to create the best people to serve this community. A lot of times you'll hear me tout on this and say that we are using this technology solution. We're using ALPR. We're using body worn cameras, that it's about the technology, but really it really is about the people that put that technology in play. And so we're constantly trying to make sure that these officers are well trained, well suited to make sure that Danville is safe. If you can pass on a special message, and I see there's some questions in the chat, and I'll get to those. We've been making more drunk driving arrests, and I don't want that to come as a surprise to people. So in the spirit of helping our neighbors and our friends out, if you can let your friends know that may not watch this show, let them know that the Danville police we're certainly out there. If officers come to me and say, hey, I want to work Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, and just do DUI enforcement, that is always available. We actually have, we received grant funding from our CHP partners. Thank you for that, as part of the cannabis tax grant program. And it's specifically designed for us to go out and do DUI enforcement. So our first event we kicked off was actually right after July 4th. We did make an arrest for DUI that night, but we will be having officers on patrol specifically looking for impaired driving. And we take that very serious. And for those that don't know, in the chat here, that is 100% the reason why I got into law enforcement. My best friend growing up, David Smith, much smarter than I was, went to Tuskegee, graduated magna cum laude, went to Vanderbilt Law School. His first year in law school, he and 3 of his partners were driving a Volkswagen Bug, were hit head on by a drunk driver. All 4 of them died. So that was pretty impactful for me, because when I evaluated that event, I looked at it, and that is a 100% preventable event. That event never has to occur. And drunk driving collisions and deaths happen every single year. And yet people continue to drink, they continue to use drugs, and they continue to drive while doing it. And so it is 100% preventable. So I'll say, please do not do that. Pass it around to your friends and let them know that not only is our regular Danville units out there enforcing that, we're going to have additional units on throughout the summer, throughout the fall, and certainly during our holiday seasons where people tend to take a little bit more of the alcohol. We will be out there. And you can guarantee, if you're impaired and you show signs of impairment, that are in violation of the vehicle code, we will absolutely be arresting you. There is no driving people home. There is none of that. So please let people know that. All right, I'm checking the chat, so I appreciate all the hearts. I appreciate all the thumbs up. That actually helps us out. We really do love putting this show on. It's a great way for us to stay connected to all of you. It's a great way for you to always have access. You have direct access to the chief of police. Think about that. Think about that. Every week you can jump on here, and good times or bad, you can ask any crazy question you want or any question about your neighborhood, and I'll work to answer it. So I do appreciate you joining in. So Larry says, hi, Chief. Is the investigation of the speeding event resulting in a crash into the Blackhawk Starbucks ongoing? So Larry, I'm hoping I'm getting the right event, but this is the event where our officer was actually in pursuit of the person, and they crashed into the back of the Starbucks there at Communitas, Hera, and Crow. If that's the event you're talking about, it is certainly still ongoing. We've clearly identified the people. I've talked about it on the show before. The officers were absolutely heroic in saving people from a burning car. It was incredible. It is ongoing. There was a crime that was committed. It was, failing to obey a traffic officer. And so we will be working to send that over to either the DA or in this case, it was the juvenile probation department for review. So we are working on that case. And if there is an update, I will let you know since you did ask. All right. And then lots of hellos. I love all this back and forth. All right. So we have advertised, and this is where I have to plug an event, but August 1st. So it's only a few weeks away. We're going to have National Night Out. And when I say we, I really mean, frankly, all of you, because National Night Out, although it's usually billed as a law enforcement event, National Night Out, it's really about you and your community. And it's an event where you can register. And if you go on, I think we've actually put it on Facebook, but I'll update the chat or the notes, and I'll put a link for that in there. But you can register your community, and the great thing is throw out some food. That's my one recommendation. If you throw some food out, neighbors will come out, and it's just it's a chance to meet your neighbors. And then what we do, and usually we have between 18 and 20 neighborhoods in Danville we have to hit, and we have to hit them between about 3 hours. I'll tell you a funny story about that in a second. But so we usually split up into 5 groups. You'll see police officers. You'll see some of our volunteers out there. I think our motors will be out there. So some of you will be lucky enough to see them. You'll see our elected officials will be out there. So it's a great chance to kind of pin one of them in the corner and ask them those tough questions you've always been wanting to ask them. And I joke a little bit about that, but the reality is what I love to see when I go out there is I love to see neighbors connecting with neighbors. And the coolest thing I hear when I go out there is when one neighbor goes up to a neighbor and they're like, hey, aren't you that new guy that moved in over on 535? Or aren't you that new lady that moved over on Oneida Circle, whatever it is, right? And so it's really cool to see people connecting either for the first time or reconnecting. Because when we talk about crime, safety, that's the connection that matters, right? I was given the example, we did a neighborhood canvas where someone's home was broken into. And when it was broken into, there was a van that had pulled up kind of cattywampus in the driveway, doors all opened up. They knocked, they went around the back, broke in, the door to the garage went open, they unloaded property or loaded property into the van, and then they left. During our neighborhood canvas, we asked, we're like, hey, did you see anything? One of the neighbors said, yeah. Oh yeah. I saw the van pull up and they knocked on the door and then they went around back and then I saw the garage door open and then I saw them loading property into the van. And we're like, why didn't you call? They didn't call because they didn't know their neighbor well enough, and they thought maybe this was someone simply coming over to help them. Now, I'm sure if the relationship between the two neighbors was better, if they knew each other better, that call would have went into the police, and we'd had a good chance of catching those folks because they were there for a while. So the funny story, and I hope our current mayor, Robert Storer, doesn't get mad at me for telling this story, but he said, hey, Chief, I got a great idea. In all of our council members and our mayor, they love Danville. And I know this is a little inside pool. They may not always agree on things, but the one thing that everyone agrees on is their love for Danville. So this will kind of prove that. So he gets on and he says, hey, Chief, I got a great idea. I know we visit a lot of people, but every year I only get to visit like maybe 4 communities, maybe 3 or 4 communities. How about this? How about we schedule it so I can visit every one of the communities? I want to visit every neighborhood that signs up. And I'm not a math wizard, but I do the math on it. So 3 neighborhoods, 18 to 20 neighborhoods, 3 hours. that gives us 9 minutes to drive to each neighborhood, say hi, and then move on to the next one. So unfortunately, as much as he'd love to hang out with everyone that signs up, that's not a possibility. But it was an interesting kind of inside thing that I thought, wow, this is how much Mayor Robert Storer cares about the community. Is he wants to interact and engage with and hear from everyone, and I thought that was great. So, okay, I don't see any more questions in the chat, but I will update. And the two things I'm going to update are the link for National Night Out and the link for my update to the council. I want to make sure that you're all aware of our. Oh, I have a whole nother slide here for you. So we do active threat training. So this is where annually we go out and we participate in active threat training. And this is where we go and we go back over how to do building searches, how to assertively go out and work on locating people. We do a lot with medical and how we do trauma care. And really the objectives are, when we respond to things like that, is stop the killing and stop the dying. Those are the big two, right? And so we train for both of those. And so it's locating people quickly. And I think you can YouTube any video and see the various types of police response, but it's that. But the component that people always leave out is the medical care component. Often, usually once or twice a year, we'll send people or bring in a trainer to do tactical medicine, which is simply, no one should ever pass out or die from an external extremity wound or bleed. And so we get our officers specialized training on how to pack wounds, tourniquets, and that sort of thing. And that's what's going to happen. We're actually doing it next week. And so you'll get some Nixle alerts and some notifications on that. All right, looks like we've got some additional notes coming in here. So Debbie says, we enjoyed your presentation to the Vietnam veterans of Diablo at our dinner meeting. Thank you, John and Debbie. So Debbie, here's what I'll say to that. First off, this right here is proof. If you want the chief of police or anyone from the police department to come out and, hang out, engage, give a presentation, throw some food down. Wow. You guys put on a great dinner. It was my mouth is watering right now. It was absolutely delicious. And they say, if you want to build community, throw a kitchen table down, throw some food down, and you will bring people together. So I do appreciate it. But Debbie, the actual point of that is, we try as your police department to engage with as many people as we can. We're not going to invite ourselves to your kitchen table, but we will come out. And so if you want, you can send me an email. You can hit us up on a private message and just say, hey, I've got this organization. It could be, like a Rotary. It could be the Exchange Club. It could really be any of those types of organizations. It could be a business. Maybe you want crime safety tips. I've gone out to courts of 6 houses into someone's living room just to engage with them, give them a presentation on how to better harden their community against residential burglaries, whatever the public safety related topic is. We're willing to come out, and we're happy to engage with you, because we believe we create a safer community when you know us and we know you. In other words, when we have a relationship. And so Debbie, I was more than happy to come out, always happy to come out, and maybe happier when there's a little bit of food. I think I've mentioned that 3 times. So maybe I should stop on that. All right. But that was a great time. So I really did enjoy it. Sue's got an interesting comment here that I think leads to some public safety tips. Sue says, I had a bunch of young adults canvassing our neighborhood last week. They knocked. I replied that I wasn't interested. They stayed on my porch for a good 5 minutes. Sue, maybe answer in the chat. Oh, okay. So do I call the police? So Sue has another post that says, do I call the police and inform them of what's going on? They have been coming around quite often. Okay, so here's what I'll say. So generally, this kind of fits the profile of solicitors, which we do tend to see. And frankly, it could be someone not soliciting, right? It could be canvassing to commit crime. And I don't want to scare everyone to think that anyone that knocks on your door is there to commit a crime. But I'll give you some tips, and then I'll give you a story of something that happened that maybe will drive those points home. So first on the tips, if you have someone that's at your door, it used to be that you would hear the advice, just don't answer it. Don't say nothing, just don't answer it. That's not our advice. Our advice is, if someone's at your door and you don't want them there and they knock or ring the doorbell, simply go to them and say, hello. And they'll, hey, I'm here to sell some magazines. and then say, I'm not interested. Thank you. And then if they persist, say, please go away. So that's your ask. And if they persist, go away or I'm calling the police. If they persist, tell them to go away and that you are calling the police, but you have to actually call us. So our recommendation is first try to resolve it on your own and then call us. And that's our recommendation. And if you feel that it's unsafe, we would still prefer you to at least acknowledge that you're there, but you can call us as early as you want. You can call as soon as they come up. And if you see something that looks really sketch or suspicious, you can certainly call us. Here's the example. We get called to someone when they find a person in their neighbor's garage, and this goes around the relationship. The neighbor that was reporting it knew his neighbor very well and knew that that person had no business being in his garage. It was unfamiliar. We end up going out there. It takes 5 or 6 of us officers to go out there. And we end up, and this is I think it's in the Greenbrook area. So we end up finding the person as he's like jumping over fences. And in the trail of property or of where he had fled, there's little bits of property. One of them was for a driver's license or a wallet that had a driver's license in it that wasn't the house he was at. It was a different house a few blocks away. We go to that house and we talk to the new mom who was there taking care of her infant newborn son. And we ask, and we're like, hey, is this your ID? And she's like, yeah, but that should be in my purse. And we're like, where's your purse? She's like, oh, it's by the back door. And then when she goes by the back door, she realizes that the sliding door is open and the wallet is gone. And that scared her. So she then told us that she was in the house. She heard a knock on the door. She looks through the window and she sees someone, but she doesn't recognize them. And she's tending to her child. So she says, I'm not worried about that. They can leave a flyer or whatever it is they're doing. Presumably what happened is then the suspect went around the back of the house, opened the door, saw the wallet there, took the wallet and left. And I can tell you, the officer relayed to me that the mom felt so violated because this person was literally in her home, although slight, but he was in her home while she was there taking care of her young child. So that's our recommendation. At least respond to them just like Sue did. And then if they don't leave, or you feel uncomfortable, or you feel there's maybe a crime about to occur, please call us. A lot of times just having a cop car roll by is helpful. Now, what if it is a solicitor? What do the police do? If it's a solicitor, they're supposed to be associated with a business that has a business license. And then they also have to have a peddler's permit. And that peddler's permit isn't for the business, it's for every individual salesperson. And we're not trying to restrict people from entering the market. We want people to conduct business. We want people to feel comfortable doing that. So we're not trying to construct those as barriers to the entry to the economy. We just want to make sure that the people that are doing it are safe. And so what we do is, in order to obtain a peddler's permit, they have to apply it at our office in Martinez. And then when they do that, they get a background check. And a background check is done by investigations. And if it's a thumbs up, they're good to go. And so what we check is when we go out and we check to make sure they've got a business license on hand and that each salesperson has a peddler's permit. All right, Sue, great. See, this is where if you ask a question or leave a comment, we might, open up a good talking point. So I do appreciate you jumping in there, Sue. All right, I'm looking. So Sue says, they said they weren't selling anything, but I called my neighbor and they were selling solar. So not uncommon, Sue. We get you get Comcast and AT&T, you get magazine salesmen, trip salesmen. I mean, you get quite a few salesmen. And Sue says that she always acknowledges and that she wants them to know their home. So Sue, that is the great advice. So I appreciate that. All right. That is it. I don't see anything else in the chat, so we're gonna move on. But I want to remind everyone: download the FEMA All Hazards Guide checklist, download the Wildfire Preparedness and Evacuation checklist, and register with the Contra Costa Community Warning System. And if you haven't done it, but I'm imagining everyone that's watching the show right now, you have logged in to Nixle. If you haven't, send a text message to 888-777, 888-777. There is a link in the description on how to do that. But you send a text message, and all you have to do is put in your zip code. So 94526 or 94506 if you're Danville. And you put as many zip codes as you want, and that will automatically enroll you. So we really need you to do that, because if there is something that's happening, believe it or not, we've had radiological incidents in Danville. Someone ran over like some sort of, and I'm going to use the wrong words here, but like penetrating radar type of equipment that used nuclear see, now I'm flustered, but had a radiological component to it that, if cracked, could be hazardous to a very near area. Well, if you're in your house, how are you going to know that happened? If you sign up for Nixle, we will throw a Nixle alert out and let you know, hey, there's a radiological incident. Stay put, evacuate, whatever it might be. If you don't have that communication set up, we're not going to be able to tell you. And these are both opt-in, which means you have to do something. There isn't going to be a way for us to just automatically push it out to people. So you have to opt in for these. All right, so that is all I have, which means we're 10-10, which means we're out of service. But we're always 10-8 and in service to all of you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.